The term soft skills is a bit of an oxymoron because it was created by the US military back in 1960s. And when US Army was at war at that time, they realized that the soldiers were given the same training, but the soldiers that were winning was defined by how they were led, nothing to do with the machinery skills.
Oh,
So they said,
interesting.
so they coined the term soft skill. Machinery is hard and non-machinery is soft.
Welcome to Embracing Digital Transformation, where we investigate effective change leveraging people, process, and technology. This is Darren Pulsford, Chief Solution Architect, author, and most importantly, your host. On today's episode, unlocking the power of soft skills with returning guest Arun Gupta from Intel. Arun, welcome back to the show again. Boy, this has been awesome.
Quite all right, Darren. I'm very happy to be here again.
Hey, we've talked about RAG, enterprise RAG with OPIA. We've talked about open source community and fostering that in your organization. This one, I love this topic that you suggested. And so I said, we got to do it. Non-technical skills for technical engineers or technical resources. Super important. I can't emphasize this one enough because I have 10 kids, and five of those kids, and soon to be six of those kids, are in high tech, and the rest are teachers, which is really fascinating. And one of my sons is animal control, which he's going to move around from job to job forever. He has no problem with non-technical skills. He is a master at non-technical skills, at emotional and verbal skills and things like that. But some of my other kids, this was something they had to learn. It was not natural for them. So why why is this important? Why not just put the guys that are highly technical in a room with pizza and Coke and come back in 3 months and see what they've done?
Well, let's understand first of all, technical skills are technical skills like knowledge and experience needed to complete a job. Non-technical skills are that are not technical in nature and more related to your human side. And even though we call them as non-technical skills, another word for them is soft skills. And
Right. Yeah,
really the
we've heard the
term,
word soft skills. Yeah.
right? The term soft skills is a bit of an oxymoron because it was created by the US military back in 1960s. And when US Army was at war at that time, they realized that the soldiers were given the same training, but the soldiers that were winning was defined by how they were led, nothing to do with the machinery skills.
Oh,
So they said,
interesting.
so they coined the term soft skill. Machinery is hard and non-machinery is soft. Now that's where the term derogatory, comes in from. That okay, hey, maybe they're easy to learn, optional, and not urgent. So move on to something more important. Let's get the job done.
Right, 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 right.
But that's exactly where the difference is between the winning and the non-winning team. So really, if you think in that language, technical skills are what we know, and non-technical slash soft skills are who we are, and that is the whole self that is available in a team section where you're trying to do the work.
Can I learn soft skills, or are we just innately born with them? I know the answer to that, but
Well, these are not factory settings, right? I mean, there are some factory settings when you're born, essentially.
right.
When human beings are born, they're known to smile, they're known to be kind, they're known to be humble. All that good stuff happens. But because of our circumstances, because of how we grow up, things change, things evolve, right? So no, you can absolutely learn soft skills. And frankly, 20 years ago, I am very thankful to one of my directors. He said, Arun, you're never going to be a good public speaker. And voila, 20 years later, I've done thousands of talks around the world. So it's very much like learning public speaking. You can learn those non-technical skills as well. And it's a factory setting that you can change in your brain, in your mind, and just be a bit more mindful about it. And you can definitely learn them.
So, do you see organizations understanding the benefits of soft skills, and are they putting together training, or can there be generalized training? I guess is the question I'm asking for, or is it so unique and so tied to our person, our personas, our egos, our all that, that it's not something I can just do my training and mark it off. You know what I mean?
No, I understand. Well, I think it's important. More and more organizations are realizing the value and the benefit of non-technical slash soft skills. They all have like, oh, you got to do the security training, compliance training,
Right.
etc.,
Yeah.
etc. I still haven't seen that impetus on non-technical skills yet, because when we talk about non-technical skills, they are very much fundamental of to who we are, right? And we'll talk about those. How do you do conflict resolution? How are you more kind to each other? How are you mindful? How are you communicating? So those are some of the soft skills. So I would say communication, conflict resolution, there are some examples of that, but the harder ones really, in my opinion, are mindfulness, kindness, and those come hard by. And you really have to train your brain and your mind. That is a muscle that you have to explicitly build.
I can tell you, my wife is a pro at soft skills. She's incredible at it, right? And she's incredible at helping me with my soft skills, being more
I'm
kind.
very
She,
thankful to my wife, because I mean, one of the soft skills, for example, is communication, right?
mhm.
Most of the problems, if you think about in life, either occur because of lack of communication or improper communication. And
That is so true.
right? And
Yeah.
if you, I didn't hear
I can't
you.
tell you how many times I've been in trouble because of lack of communication or miscommunication.
Or maybe you are trying to say something and you were in a train and I heard only part of it because there was a lot of background noise. Or maybe I was in a train and I only heard part of it. So your intent and the impact on me are misaligned. And now I'm cooking stories in my head and I'm interpreting what you might have said. So that's where the skill of communication comes in very handy. So when you are talking to me, first of all, I'm not jumping in the conversation. That, oh, wait. So I'm taking a pause, letting you complete your thought. And once you complete that, I don't paraphrase back to you. I just internalize in my brain and then regurgitate back to you that this is how I internalized and I understood it. And that gives you full chance to convey your thought. I can still convey my opinion, but I first need to understand what you're trying to say.
A lot of this reminds me. I took some Covey, Franklin Covey courses,
Yeah.
right? On what was it called, the
Seven habits of effective
seven
people.
habits. Yeah,
Yeah.
seven
Yeah.
habits of
Yeah.
highly effective people. This, if you look at those habits, these are all soft skills.
That's what it is. That's exactly what
Oh,
it is.
so this is interesting, right?
Yeah.
Because they're principles that are out there. Some of them are little, I hate to call them tricks, but listen to understand, you know, type of thing. So this is what you're talking about, is we need to train these technical people, but why?
It's very
Why do we
important.
need to? Yeah, what's the purpose? Don't we
Yeah, yeah.
need people that we can throw in a room and get stuff done?
No, we can't, right? See, because as much as we want to work in our own ways, actually, let's go back to what you said earlier. Stephen,
Okay,
he made a statement. He said, most people do not listen with an intent to understand.
that's
They
correct. Yeah,
listen with an intent to reply that, oh, you are telling me a 45-second long story. I'm still stuck on the first 10 seconds
that's
because
right.
I'm bubbling a new story in my head. How I'm going to respond to that point of view? To say, okay, have you even given Darren a full chance to understand his thought process? Make a note that you want to respond back, but do with an intent to understand, then with an intent to reply. So that's one. The second part, I think your question was, why can't we put people in the room and let them figure it out? See, because we all come from different culture, we all come from different background, we all come from different skill set, right? um, you know Java, I know Java, you know Python, I know Python, for example. Then we can say, yeah, we have both common understanding. But your language, English is not my first language. and I've lived here long enough that it is becoming a first language now. So, but then I do have my own cultural differences. How I see things are very different than you see
Yeah,
things.
of course. Yeah.
It's like the elephant in a room. We are all seeing a different picture of the elephant. So, how do you communicate? And then, okay, let's say you cause a bug. Let's say the software that you wrote caused a bug in the system. There are multiple ways I can communicate that. I can say, um, Darren, you always break the bill and the code is broken again. Oh my god. That's
Yeah,
one way,
you could say that.
right? Or the other way is, hey, this we caused this bug and the bug needs to be fixed. When can we fix it? So I think that communication is not documented anywhere, and that causes a rift. And more often than not, people hold a grudge. Darren talked to me not nicely. He's not a nice person. Now onwards,
So now I won't trust what he says.
everything he
I don't
says,
want to talk to him. Yeah.
I think that's where the teams break apart. So bringing those people together again, that how do you start trusting each other is not, I think that's where we have to kind of break things apart. We talk about conflicts, right? So in terms of conflict, we always talk in terms of, is it a task conflict, which is more of a cognitive conflict or a disagreement about the content of the discussion, or a personality conflict? So, same point, if you are saying or somebody else is saying, am I interpreting exactly the same way or different way?
Right.
So, that's where that conflict needs to be done. So, to your point, you can't put people in the room, because there is always, if there is more than one person in the room, there are people dynamics in the room.
I think this is so important that and we're not addressing it very well with technical people. What came to my mind through this is the cultural differences that we all have. Even in the United States, you would think, oh, we're all the same, pretty much. I One of my first big management positions was managing a team in Arkansas, 350 people. I moved from the West Coast and I learned West Coast management style. I'd already been a CIO. West Coast management style, I didn't know there was such a thing until I went to Arkansas, which is the deep South.
Right.
The management style there was something that was foreign to me. And I walked in thinking, well, everyone in America manages people the same way.
Right. Right.
And the very first week, I had a very great lieutenant that worked for me. He came into my office and said, you are not going to survive working here unless you change some things. And I go, what are you talking about? And he goes, you completely blew over the whole team when you came in
Yeah.
because they were telling you what the problems were. And you said, well, let's write the problems on the board and let's fix them. West Coast management style, problem on the board, fix the problem. In the South, it doesn't work that way. Problems are fixed behind closed doors quietly,
Yeah.
not in the open.
Yeah.
And that shocked me. I was like, whoa, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to offend, but I highly offended my whole team.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it took me a good 4 months to build up relationships from that one mistake that I made because I didn't truly understand the culture that I was in because I didn't take the time that I needed
Exactly.
to do it. So that was something. So to me, the soft skill thing is something that you don't just learn once. You have to continually learn based off the different environments that you're in.
100%. I think what you're saying is, in every context, there is a cultural sensitivity. And
Yeah.
oftentimes, if the thing is not landing as expected, then it's on us. The fact that I'm trying to communicate and the other person is not understanding is 100% on me, not on the other person. Because then because I have a frame of mind and I want to make sure the intent and the impact aligns with each other. So I want to give the person, see, because if you are a boss and a subordinate dynamics, maybe the subordinate is not feeling comfortable questioning you back. So that's where you have to kind of create this concept of psychological safety, that I'm saying a concept, if you don't understand, ask me back. I'm giving you a deadline. If you can't meet it, tell me that so that I can act accordingly upon it. Don't say I'm going to do it and not deliver it. So I
And
think
not deliver. Yeah.
exactly. So I think those are the kind of safety cultural aspects that you're talking about, and those are not easy to come by. It takes time, because you got to spend time with people in a non-work social setting. Unfortunately,
Yep.
sometimes that's not possible, but you got to spend time so that people start understanding and appreciating the value that you bring.
So to me, this is really fascinating if we tie it into our previous discussion on open source, because a lot of these open source projects, you're pulling people from different cultures across the world to work together with extremely different cultures. It's fascinating that in those situations, it seems to figure and work itself out, creating its own new culture for that group.
Correct.
I've seen
Correct.
it before.
No, absolutely, and you're absolutely right, because these people are coming from different culture. They might have dropped a comment on your pull request while you are asleep. You get up in the morning. The first thing you say, "Oh, what do you mean my pull request is rejected? That guy doesn't understand the value."
That's
And
right.
you go down the toilet vortex, right? And I'm gonna make a quote from Captain Jack Sparrow, from character of the Pirates of the
Okay.
Caribbean, right? He made a beautiful guy. I mean, five or six movies out of him, and every movie, multiple times, he gets into a problem, but he's able to get out of the problem. And so the quote that he makes is, "The problem is not the problem. The problem is your attitude towards the problem." So once you fix the
That's right.
attitude, I don't believe in complaining. So stop complaining. This is the issue. How do you handle this in the most mindful way is an important element. So just move forward. Let's solve the issue. Either you solve the issue or you stop complaining, because complaining to me is a waste of time.
Oh, could you say that to some of my teenagers, please, Arun?
I'm sorry, teenagers are hard. Lot harder than the work people. So
Darn. I should know how to raise teenagers. I only have one left in the house
there you go.
after 10. So
Yeah.
you think I'd figure it out, but
Well,
I'm still working.
I got two. One is a 22, the other one is a teenager, and I love, I have shared these soft skills with him all the time, and anytime I kind of bring up my soft skill hat, he's like, yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it's funny because if they hear it from a professor in college, it's like, "Oh, Dad, you should know this is awesome. This guy," and I says, "Yeah,
Well, I'll
I've
give
been
you an
telling you
example.
this for years."
Exactly. I'll give you an example. The other day, my son, he plays football, American football. So he came
Uh-huh.
back home the other day, and I've been guiding him on mindfulness, the importance of mindfulness. That okay, you can't be stressed about the future. You can't be worried about the past, because past is past. Neither future is in your control. How do you live in the moment and make that more meaningful? And how
Right.
forgetfulness, because you missed the previous throw or a catch, don't beat yourself up for it. Get up and be in the moment and keep going. So I have taught him how to do boxed breathing. And box breathing is basically anytime you are stressed or you're anxious, box breathing is 4 second inhale, 4 second hold, 4 second exhale, and 4 second hold. So it's a 16-second boxed breathing. And the other day he came back home to me and he says, "Dad, I think you're gonna love it." I said, "What's going on?" And he says, "My instructor, my coach, actually taught us box breathing." And he says, "Who knows it?" And I raise my hand. There you go. So exactly to your point, right? That the coach says it, and then that sticks in their head. Not
Yeah, that sticks in their heads. Yeah, that's absolutely true. So, and is the same true in our organizations sometimes?
100%, 100%. I mean,
Right? It's almost like they say a prophet is never heard in their own country.
correct, correct. So
It's
I
the
think,
same sort of thing.
yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, I really, really believe in mindfulness, particularly. That's something that is big on my list. And what is mindfulness? Mindfulness really is, as we talked about earlier, is not about worrying of like being worried about the past or anxious about the future. Because guess what? The statement goes, if you have one foot in the past, one foot in the future, then you're pissing on the present. And so, really, mindfulness is taking one moment at a time in the most non judgmental way. You don't want to pass a judgment around it. Think of it, I mean, how the world is going, where the country is going. One of the statements I heard very recently, which I really love, it says, I can't control the wind, I can control the sails. And that to me is mindfulness.
I like that term. I mean, Covey talks about that with circle of influence and concern. It's
Right.
the same concept, but I love the phrase. I can't control the wind, but I can control the sails.
And that's what I keep guiding my team all along. Like the team would come back, oh, such and such person is not responding, or such and such person is not sharing the details with me, or I don't know how to navigate. I said, okay, what is the next step that we should do, who we should reach out to, how can we navigate the org, where can I step in to back up for yourself, where can I help you to be more effective, because either we agree to get the task done, and if we have to, then let's figure out a way on how we're going to get done, or at some point where we say it's not possible, then we close it and move on. So I think you can either accept it or change it. Those are the only two
Yeah,
routes.
yeah.
And
So
one of the philosophies that I love around that is it says, which is again to be mindful, is expect nothing and accept everything. And if you stick with that philosophy, because then you want to get the job done, then you're not expecting anything. You have communicated your end state, but whatever they're throwing at you, you are accepting that in a most mindful way and say, okay, I'm going to do this because I want to get the task done. So I think lots of different ways by which you can tackle this.
so I'm wondering if the rise of generative AI is going to require people, subject matter experts, to have even more soft skills because some of the technical skills are not going to be as marketable or useful because some of that work can be done by automation now. So it's tickling my brain a little bit saying, well, then soft skills are going to become so much more important. How can I communicate, get my ideas across effectively, and so that either an automation system or other people can help me achieve the goals that I'm looking to do. So being able to communicate, being empathetic, being mindful, all these skills I think are going to become even more important in the future because of things like generative AI. Does that make any sense?
I think generative AI, non generative AI, the human skills are always going to stay important. But you're right in the sense that with the proliferation of Gen AI, because that let's say you generated some content out of Gen AI, is it truly reflecting your tone? Is it truly reflecting your philosophy? Is it truly conveying your intention? Is it gonna land well on the person that you're trying to communicate to? I think that impetus is still gonna be on the human
It's
being.
still going to be on us. Yeah, I think
Yes.
so too.
Yeah, so I think in that sense you're right that the place where we put impetus might change, but the role of that soft skills is going to be equally important. I think another soft skill that is super important that we don't talk about enough is really kindness. And if you think about it, um, what is kindness? Kindness is act of helping or complimenting somebody without expecting a return.
Yeah.
And similarly, gratitude is thankful appreciation of an act of kindness. And there have been studies done which says that kindness and gratitude increases serotonin, which is your mood stabilizer and happiness, oxytocin, which lowers your blood pressure and improves cardiovascular health. It gives you a pleasure, which is helper's high, because when you are doing a kindness, makes you feel good. The person that you did a kindness act towards person feels good, and it creates a meaningful connection at work. So I think in that sense, for example, you know, in my staff, we always start with gratitude practice. There are so many things that we can fix and do better, but we always start with a gratitude practice, and the
You
idea
know,
here.
Arun, I am so glad that you brought that up because, especially in Intel right now, right, where we're going through a rough time, we all know this, right? It is so important that we keep positive and having a gratitude. At the beginning, I do it at home with my kids. We had gratitude bucks. when my kids were younger and they were complaining a lot, we had gratitude bucks. So if they said they were grateful for something or said thank you or something, then we rewarded them because we were trying to reemphasize that.
Right.
And it changed our whole house.
Yeah.
It was highly beneficial. I never thought about doing it at work. What an incredible idea.
Well, I've been doing this for many years in my teams across the companies, and it has absolutely worked like a magic here. And the phrase that comes to my mind with kindness and gratitude is, people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel.
Yeah.
This quote is by Maya Angelou. You know, kindness and gratitude will always leave them warm and fuzzy. And if you have done the studies, Harvard has done a study over 90 years, and they have done studies over 4 or 5 generations now, and they say community, connection, that fuzziness, that warmness around you is what leads to a longer life. So it really goes back to the fundamental, that what are you as a human being?
Yeah. No, I love this. Arun, I love talking to you. We have a fun time. So thank you again for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. This is another great episode. We most definitely need to talk some more. This has been great. I appreciate it.
Very well. Thank you, Darren. I really enjoyed it too.
Thank you for listening to Embracing Digital Transformation today. If you enjoyed our podcast, give it 5 stars on your favorite podcasting site or YouTube channel. You can find out more information about Embracing Digital Transformation at embracingdigital.org. Until next time, go out and embrace the digital revolution.